What is up? This is Ryan here for the Scale Up Show. Today we're going over part two of the silent AI revolution. This is more about leadership's blind spot. So this is why AI transformation is failing from the top down. The best example I could give is imagine a CEO mandating swimming lessons while sending instructions via email. Okay, that's exactly what's happening with AI transformation. You're not going to want to miss this episode. Check it out. All right, today this is something that I am seeing as a major problem. And the funny thing is, it's happening with a lot of really large organizations. All right. And it really caught my attention because the folks that I've been working with are super excited about AI implementation and the impact it could have on their team. Otherwise, they wouldn't bring me in to help with that transformation. Right. So, one of the areas, though, I am seeing is the core problem is leadership delegation without demonstration. All right. And I think that's the default mechanism because one of the major capabilities of creating leverage as a leader is to leverage your team, right? As Naval Ravikant has mentioned, it's capital, it's code, it's team, right? So capital code team. And then on top of it, Alex Ramosi even mentions media, right? So capital code team and media, right? Those are the areas. It should be four C's, but I'm clearly messing it up right now. However, you get the concept, right? So, anyways, so let's go through the leadership paradox, right? Because what I'm also finding as to defend leaders on why they're struggling with this is a lot of the leaders are being asked to do a ton at an incredible breakneck rate. If you look at even a position like a chief revenue officer, the average tenure or VP of sales is like 18 months, and it's one of the most demanding high performance jobs that you can have out there. However, there's also the same thing is like it seems like everyone's patience, whether it be the investors, stock market, you name it, patience is dwindling in terms of expected outcomes. You'll see this even with pro sports, like coaches are getting fired at an incredible clip. So what's happening is folks in the leadership position are trying to delegate and say, do as I say, not do as I do, right? So they're preaching a multi-million-dollar AI initiative and what it could impact, all the way down to the point where Microsoft actually created, and this was just announced at Microsoft Ignite in November of 2024, of like an ROI tracking tool. And I get why you would want attached tracking to Copilot because it's harder to create attributable revenue outcomes to it because it's a new technology and it doesn't operate in a linear fashion. Okay. So, anyways, you might want to check that out. Satya talks about that in his opening speech. And one of the best examples I think that he gave is he's basically saying AI agents are going to do for knowledge work what lean has done for manufacturing. Okay. And I think this is a really good analogy. So you might want to write that down. And I'm probably going to use that more and borrow that from him, if you will. But here's the three leadership patterns I'm seeing. One is the email delegator. Okay. So those are just the folks that are like dipping a toe in the water. You should leverage AI, use it as much to delegate, automate, offload your job, right? That's mostly done over email. Then you got the budget approver. Okay. And this is, and I hope not to cast shade, maybe it's different, but from what I've seen with Chevron, where basically they're testing 20,000 Copilot users and they're not sure if there's any ROI. Okay. So it sounds like they approved the budget to test it and use it, but they're not super active in terms of the education component, which is really what's going to drive the outcomes. Number three is the ghost supporter. So someone who's like, this is a priority. They start off supporting it and then they get too busy and get focused on other areas. So it's basically just kind of like a flare that shot off in terms of using it and promoting it. But it's one of those things, just like working out, right? You're not going to take a pill that you lose 20 pounds in a day, right? It's one of those things that's going to happen over time with diet and exercise. And I'm not saying AI usage is diet and exercise, but one of those areas is like of using it. And here's the cool thing. When leaders actually embrace this, you're going to be blown away with the results. I'm seeing leaders actually help a CRO basically carve out 10 hours a week. Really, and it took me an hour and a half to do it. I walked him through different use cases, and this guy was blown away. He wanted to spend more time with his family, was actually, wanted to spend more time with his kids, actually. and they're hitting that kind of timeline where they're starting to get a little bit older, realizes that there's a possibility that they're not going to want to spend as much time with them, right? Which, I could relate to, because they're going into high school, they're going into college, and lives just change over time. Okay. So that was one of the things that I think you can get excited about. And so here's how to avoid the innovation suffocation, right? As you're going through this, like, really avoid it. One of the things I think is there's a massive experimentation deficit right now. And we're so focused on short-term results with an ROI attached to it with anything we invest in, because folks are trying to be really sharp and do more with less. And that's actually suffocating the innovation and the outcomes that your team can get of multiples of work that they're doing now. All right, so here's 3 simple ways to do it. One is almost create like an AI sandbox. And that could be something as simple as a Slack channel. That could be just a win thread on an email where your team shares results and outcomes they're getting, and always looks at it through the lens of like, all right, how is it, what kind of timeline am I doing it on versus the way I used to do it? What are the insights, or how is it scaling intelligence? And then what's the outcome I actually receive? So attaching everything to an outcome. Okay. So that's the other thing. Cross-team collaboration. That's the other thing that I think works really, really well. I've seen different departments, even if we just focus on go-to-market, let's say customer success is using it one way, and then we see SDRs and sales using it another way, and we see marketing using it another way, right? All different kind of modalities that they're using. So one might be using it for voice, another might be video, another might be taking data and turning it into insights and results. By going through those different examples, what you're going to see is there's basically, like, by sharing those and cross-pollinating, it'll generate new ideation of what's possible and how to use it with your organization. Okay. So that's number 2. Number 3 is safe to fail environments. One of the things that I think is also good to share are some things that aren't working, right? I tried it for this, it's not working. I tried it for that, it's not working. Or I didn't quite get the result I want. The cool thing about it is what you'll see is different teammates will start to level each other up with that environment and become safe to fail. It also becomes safe to show where you're struggling, or what maybe are even some of the gaps in the AI tools that you're using. And when I'm talking about AI tools, I'm talking about the foundation models, because that's what everything's built on. So that's ChatGPT, that's Google Gemini, that's Claude, right? So these are the examples that you could leverage it as a team. Now, when someone did this, it was an organization I was working, they unlocked $500,000 in productivity in like only 8 weeks. At the same time, they also had a member of their team close the largest deal of the year, of someone who was more junior, right? That never had success like that. So, I mean, here's the 2 things: $500,000 in productivity, as well as closing the largest deal of the year. That's pretty significant when you just do that process over a period of 8 weeks. And here's the pattern that I follow when I go through that and I help companies implement it. Really, it's a combination of training and then hackathon, training, hackathon. And I look at a focus area for each training hackathon module, and then integrate some of that sharing and wins and cross-pollination in between there. And what that'll really do is that, like I said, accelerates and levels up the whole entire org. And then what happens is all these new capabilities of what they believe is possible is completely changed. The awesome thing that I didn't even share in terms of like an outcome that was delivered as well, is that emotionally, people really started to enjoy work again. And the reason why is because they could actually delegate the crap pieces of their job that they no longer would like to do to AI, right? So once you facilitate that, work becomes much more rewarding. And I'll give you a specific example. I noticed this. It used to take me a really long time to write structure in terms of content, in terms of formatting, in terms of copywriting. And so now what I could do is I could leverage something as simple as I could walk and talk, and I could record what I'm saying into the voice module, I should say, or advanced voice in ChatGPT on my phone, and just talk about my thoughts, and then have it structure and organize it, and then put it into a content style. So it's my own original content, but I'm not taking all those times doing that fine tuning of like, okay, it's formatting over here, structure over here, right? And that just saves magnitudes of time, but also eliminates the crap work. I used to hate doing that. It was like going to the dentist with a cavity, right? Like I just want to do that. Anyways, here's what I'd recommend. I want to give you something that you could take away as a leader for an immediate action plan, right? And you can do this as an individual too if you want to do it for yourself. So this isn't only limited to leadership, but take 3 steps for the next week. 1, have an AI immersion hour where you don't have any expectations, you don't expect an ROI in your time, and you take 1 hour to 2 hours, whether it be at night or on the weekend, outside of working hours, and just go through and try different things that you think would be cool to do, right? Number 2 is create an innovation space for you or your team, right? So start to share internally what some of these wins and use cases are. And then also gather the wins from your team and start asking for this for other departments too. What other wins are the other departments having on top of it, right? And that alone will get you started. If you want help from someone like me, this is what I do. And I help organizations implement this very succinctly and tightly and transform their entire organization in less than 2 months. So anyways, as a quick wrap up, if you want something like this, there'll be a show notes, I should say a link in the show notes where you can apply for an AI consult. I'd be more than happy to work with you. However, I'm just letting you know that that AI consult is free, but you have to qualify, right? So you have to be someone with an organization that has a budget that's ready to go, because I only have so much limited time and bandwidth. And we are really at one of the most unique times in history with what's possible right now. So I have to be discerning in terms of who I can spend my time with. All right. Well, thanks for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed this kind of like 2-step format, if you will, on Shadow AI and what the opportunities are. I just felt obligated to want to share this with you because it was something that I was seeing as a pattern over time with organizations. And so feel free to reach out to me. Let me know on Spotify too if you enjoyed this episode. Drop some comments in there, or even on drop a review as well if you'd like. But really enjoy you being with me today, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.